Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. There seems to be something going on in Police Scotland that is very, very strange. First of all, the Chief Constable, Ian Livingstone, he resigns, he goes off to retire. He says its time is right for him to go. Then the Deputy Chief Constable, Fiona Taylor, decides that she'd like to retire too, and she's going to take early retirement and go. And now a third Deputy Chief Constable, Malcolm Graham, has decided the time is right for him to go too. Three very senior, long-serving police officers all running away very, very quickly just before Operation Branchform reports. We have to ask, is there a connection? Are they going before they're pushed? Are they running away in order to keep their pensions? Will they try to avoid prosecution on the basis of, well, yes, they were involved, but now they've resigned, it's hardly in the public interest kind of thing? That happens with policemen a lot. But it certainly seems to be very shady. And now, of course, you've got the new Chief Constable who, only 2 weeks into her job, started effectively stealing from the force by, using policemen to drive her home, police vehicles, police time, police fuel, never been repaid. It's a funny way to run a police service. Let's have a look and see why the latest one appears to have gone. And is there any connection to Branchform? Here goes. So, Police Scotland exodus as third top cop to quit crisis hit organisation in less than a year. You can only think rats leaving a sinking ship, because of course they're massively underfunded to begin with. But why would you risk losing all that knowledge and experience in such a short period of time? It seems very coincidental. It's the war. What's the term? Once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. And I think if you're losing 3 top cops, your Chief Constable and 2 Deputy Chief Constables, all in less than a year, something is seriously amiss. And these are people that will have been involved very deeply for many years with the SNP. They, after all, have been ruling for many years. What are the connections? There's got to be something. You don't lose people like this all of a sudden, ever so quickly, without there being a major problem. So Deputy Chief Constable Malcolm Graham has become the third top cop after Sir Ian Livingstone and Fiona Taylor to announce their retirement amid a funding crisis in the force. Now, they're trying to spin this as a funding crisis or some such, but we know that it's got to be deeper than that. It can't simply just be money. A third top cop is set to quit Police Scotland, joining an exodus of experienced staff from the crisis hit organisation. Deputy Chief Constable Malcolm Graham has announced his intention to retire from policing in just 3 months' time after almost 30 years' service. He joins fellow Deputy Chief Constable Fiona Taylor and former Chief Executive Sir Ian Livingstone in exiting the force in just under a year. And Sir Ian retired back in August last year, while Miss Taylor will be hanging up her uniform next month. It's very, very suspicious, is all I can think. The exodus of top staff comes as Police Scotland faces a funding crisis and a new leader, with Jo Farrell joining from Durham Constabulary. But her reign got off to a bumpy start when she was forced to apologise for making an on-duty cop drive her home to Northumberland from Edinburgh after the trains were cancelled due to Storm Babbitt. So right in the middle of the storm, when an undermanned force desperate for personnel was needing all the help it can get, she grabbed this guy and made him drive for 6 hours outside of Scotland at an incredible rate of pay, using all that fuel, using up a police vehicle at a time when it may have been used to save people's lives. Oh, and she apologised, so that's all right then. What she hasn't done is paid back the cost, and therefore she has utilised public service money in the form of the police resources for her own benefit. And there's a word for that. That word is theft. And so you've got a Chief Constable 2 weeks into the job who's a thief. She's stolen resources. And the problem there, of course, is now that the new Chief Constable is owned. Just like Ian Livingstone was, now Joe Farrell is. Owned by the SNP, lock, stock and barrel, and so they can do anything they like. She's not going to investigate. After all, it would cost her her job. She needs to resign. Mr. Graham was a candidate to replace Sir Ian as the country's top cop, but lost out to Miss Farrell, presumably because they knew she would be easier to control. And has now decided to exit the force as well. He leads the local policing portfolio and notified the Scottish Police Authority on Monday, and he will leave the police on April the 8th. More rats than the sinking ship, as I say. He then gives some excuse, blah, 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 which we don't really care, but we will read it. After 30 years in policing, he says, more than 11 as a chief officer, I've decided the time is right to leave Police Scotland. Yes, the time being just before Operation Branchform reports, and while I've still got a very nice pension, thank you very much. He says, Chief Constable Joe Farrell said, I want to thank Malcolm for his outstanding leadership, blah, 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 we don't care. Because it's all a fix. It's obvious that there's something going on. What is going on that all these chief police officers are leaving just before Branchform reports? It just stinks, doesn't it? Anyway, Mr. Graham announced last month that the force was looking at closing 29 police stations across the country, because if there's fewer police stations and fewer police, it means they are busier dealing with the public, and fewer people will have time, energy and money to look at all the shenanigans that the SNP are getting up to. It's basically becoming a lawless state. But that, of course, is all part of the design. A recruitment freeze was also put in place over the festive period to free up cops to help out in communities over the busy time. Cops are also investigating Scotland's governing party, and that, of course, is the main reason these people are going, and also the main reason for making sure that cops don't have the resources. They don't want them investigating the SNP. Peter Murrell and Colin Beattie were arrested, blah, blah, blah. We all know that. Police Scotland have been criticised for the alleged glacial pace of the operation, because obviously they don't want to act too quickly. They want people to live as long as they can outside of prison so they can spend less time inside. Mr. Graham became Deputy Chief Constable in 2019 and took on the remit of crime and operational support, where he was responsible for specialist policing functions, including major crime investigations, such as the Murrells, and major incident response. He also led policing response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the police operation for the funeral of Her Majesty the Queen. The Scottish Police Authority is currently recruiting to replace Miss Taylor, with the authority now being forced to consider whether a separate process is necessary to fill the vacancy caused by Mr. Graham's retirement. Yes, so that's two big top vacancies they're looking for. So obviously they're going to try and find police officers that are easy to control, possibly a bit corrupt, that sort of thing, so that they can be owned as well as Joe Farrell, and the SNP can have total control over all the senior police in Scotland. So don't expect anyone honest, anyone with integrity. Just expect more of the same. Crooks. Crooks in blue. Coming up. I think surely the rules need to be changed about policemen resigning and retiring. I think regardless of whether they're retired or not, they must still be answerable for their actions in office. And if necessarily they get booted down a bit, lose promotion, subsequently you might have retired as a Deputy Chief Constable, but look, you're screwed up here, we're bumping you down to Inspector, and so you'll only get an Inspector's pension, that kind of thing. I don't think that you should be rewarded for being in any way crooked. And certainly, if a crime has been committed, you stand trial. You don't just get, well, it's not in the public interest anymore. No, you go to jail, policeman or not. But to simply just go, well, there's going to be trouble ahead, I best resign now so I can keep my pension and not actually get charged, is very, very wrong. And I think that's probably what's happened. I can't guarantee it's what's happened, of course, but it seems very, very shady. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.